it's really easy to kind of stereotype marriage in the past, particularly kind of aristocratic marriages, as just very cold and formulaic and driven entirely about ideas about finance and inheritance and profit and kind of position. And that is a very important element, and it's an element that, you know, maybe we don't have so much today. But it is also a society that has a language of love, of romance, of novels, of ideas of falling in love with somebody for true love, of love tokens and gift giving. And really, the kind of the London season, the marriage market, is about a combination of those things.
I don't think love and marriage are the same thing. Marriage is about alliances. And if you're lucky, you might find love and alliance coming together in marriage. But that was not the norm for the period. And I think there's something really terrifically precious if you do find that.
Violet needed Daphne to marry for love, because she needed it to be a marriage full of love, because otherwise she would have nothing. For Anthony, he is the head of the household, so he is already in control. Violet needs him to realise that love can play a part to make his life happier and easier. But there's a difficulty there because he pushes it away. He doesn't want anything to do with it, whereas Daphne, that she wanted to emulate what her parents had. Anthony doesn't want that in the slightest. So it's a very different form of navigation. I've been trying endlessly to put women in his path, but partly to put them in his path so that he'll start to look and try. I don't think he should marry the first woman that he goes to see. I just need him to try, and he has no interest in finding out anything other than whether they'll produce an heir or whether they'll be good at dinner parties.
So he's really sort of got low self-esteem when it comes to love and marriage. I don't think he has got time for that, for complicated reasons to do with his mum and dad, but also I don't think he thinks he's good enough for love, really. But that's deep. In the way that we date now and that everyone's dispensable. It's exactly the way that Anthony is at the beginning of season 2. I think he just goes, no, 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 no. And his, mother brilliantly says to him, you're going to end up alone. And I feel like that's a very sort of millennial fear, because there's so much going around. The idea of conversations of meeting the right person, who that person is. There's so many ways of meeting people. The fact that he sort of secretly knows that he's not going to commit to any single person unless they're completely right is probably quite terrifying.
Anthony sees it as what he must do, and Daphne sees it as, what makes you happy. So I think it's that dynamic which is quite interesting in season 2.
I just don't think Eloise wants to lose herself. I think she'd be scared of losing all of the things that make her awesome. Because in her head, I think she might have a slightly misguided idea that she's going to have to offer herself up to someone and sacrifice a lot, which would have been true then, right? You do have to let go of a lot of things. And I just think she wants the freedom to be like, I want to work. I want autonomy. I want my own cash. I don't want all the men in my life to be in charge of it. And I think she'd be happy to do that with someone who could do that with Eloise.
Edwina's an incredibly naive, at the beginning, young woman, and she's grown up reading fairy tales and being told about the power of love and seeing her parents be deeply in love. So she comes into it with just the purest intentions. And I think slowly throughout the season, you see her kind of wise up a bit and realize actually there's more to love and marriage. And sometimes it's not as romantic and like a fairy tale as you expect. And you can either decide to play ball and accept that, or you can decide to stick to your guns.
She's already had her heart broken by losing her dad. And so I think the thought of falling in love with another man and letting someone in that way is really scary. And action! She comes to London with a plan, with a solid plan. Not going to get married, not meeting anyone, not interested. And then, what's his face gets in the way and then changes everything.
There's a lot of questions about Benedict, I think, about where he's going and who he is, and the perfect defense to being terrified about it is to sort of stand back and put on a slightly arch smile. And actually, I think the world of love and marriage is probably tilted more towards actually going out into the world and interacting with it. And I think Benedict isn't quite there.
I think Penelope is a real, true romantic. I think she loves love. I think she doesn't admit it as much to Eloise, because Eloise would think it's really lame and embarrassing. She's so besotted by Colin. And I think actually her feelings for him, I've been thinking a lot about this recently, is that she really truly sees him, and he, in a way, really truly sees her. Like, I don't think they have to sort of pretend around one another. Not that I think she pretends around Eloise, but she definitely panders a little more to Eloise. And it's fun because you see in this series, their relationship has taken a step forward in that they've become pen pals when Colin's been away. And because she's a writer, I think that's allowed her to express herself in a very genuine way to him, and she doesn't feel quite as exposed. So they've definitely grown closer, and it's interesting because you get to see that dynamic, and then Eloise coming in and being the cock block of the century.
There's something quite romantic about that time. You know, you just send people flowers, and I don't think we do that so much anymore. We just swipe left and right now. So definitely more romantic. But I wouldn't want to be a woman in those times.
It's too traditional, I think, for me. I love like spontaneity, and yeah, I think for me, I'd very much prefer now. I think I love that there's no rules. You can kind of do whatever you want.
I think we're so obsessed with being free about it today and having all the choice, always the choice. Actually, we don't really jump in the swimming pool. You know, we sort of tend to just we can get stuck a bit. It's maybe not so distant from how we are anyway. Like, I think when someone walks into a ballroom and takes a walk around the room, essentially they're just swiping right? They're just going no, 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 no. Oh, maybe, no, you know. But it's fantasy Regency, and it's modernized Regency, or it's Regency with a modern feel. So it's a bit more of a hazy boundary, and it probably also shows up how it's not that different, and how human beings back then were probably not that different.
Sebastian, here. You love closing out your victories, do you not, brother?
Speed is just everything now, isn't it? Like, even like double tapping, it's like you've made your opinion about something, or scrolling, like, you know, there's like a reason why there's gaps in between pictures in a gallery, so you can like digest it whilst you're walking to the next one. And I think like there's something nice about space and to be considered in things. So I find it quite romantic, because the only reason we sort of maybe pine after someone else is because we don't know them. So we don't know all of their crap. But they're gonna have all of their crap, and then you're gonna prefer the crap you had before. Because you're like, at least I knew that crap. And they knew my crap, and now I'm gonna have to explain all my crap to this new person. It's long.
Regency era love and marriage resembles Indian love and marriage in a way that it's a duty, it's an obligation to the family. And I think, you know, there is actually something really important in that. It's a recognition that a marriage is more than just about those two people. Of course it's about those two people, but it's also about two families coming together, a legacy living on.
Back then, like it really took time. Like to go on a date, to go and meet someone for breakfast, you'd have to get on your horse and ride off and do that. Or like to send a message to someone, you'd have to write the letter and then send it off, and then a couple of days they would get it. I like that patience and time it took back then to really get to know someone and build a relationship. It feels really authentic.
If it's about security and sustaining and ring fencing a family lineage, and you enjoy that, that's great. As a modern gay man, it's like my nightmare because you would sort of fail at every level, and also society. Actually, I wouldn't fail. Society would fail. There's no room for anyone who is harnessing their actual true identity to maneuver in a way that is wholesome and generous to people who they are attracted to. So it's a kind of nightmare.
My thoughts on it are that I am so glad I don't have to deal with it. I would have been a massive failure as a Deb. I mean, I would have got into the dancing, I'd have loved that. Yeah, I learned some languages, I'd have loved that. And I think there's something about the pageantry that is appealing,
But please don't ask me to choose my life partner that way. I'm sorry.
It makes us laugh a little bit, a lot of us, when we're kind of doing some of these scenes. It's also a reminder of how challenging that must have been at that time for anybody who really did want to change that dynamic or did have dreams in another direction.
That's never, ever going to stop being fascinating, I think, for an audience, for people in general, for human beings. It's, you know, love still makes the world go round.
On board. On board. Reloads.